Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop and another Sunday video. So in last week's video we looked at the jack planes, which are really the jack of all trades, as we saw in that video. So go and watch it if you haven't watched it already, because there's a lot of things I'm going to discuss in the intro to this video that we discussed in the last video. So at the end of that video we looked at Joseph Moxon's doctrine of handiworks, mechanicking exercises, and it was talking of trying a piece of timber like this. Now what they were actually doing was 4 inches or 2 inches, 7 foot long, which would be as long as this bench. So I've only got a small piece. This is a piece of offcut. As you can see by the colour of it, it's been floating around for a long time. But it spoke of the Fore plane, which is the next group I want to discuss. So in all the historic texts I've ever read, the Fore plane, which are always here, I fit into that Fore plane class, are listed as being between 18 inches and 22 inches. So I have loads of this size. I also, technically, some of those jacks, we'll get one off actually and just have a look. Technically some of these jacks would be very similar in length to these. So some of these jacks, they're not quite 18 inches, I think they're 17. So yeah, so that's an 18-inch plane. So these are 17, so they are classed as jacks. So you see the difference. You know, the jack plane is only just fractionally shorter than the smaller end of the Fore planes. So put the jack back out the way. So a Fore plane, 18 to 22 inches, accepted. Again, slightly differing widths. You know, these are quite a bit wider than some of these, well certainly than these. And then again you see here some of these are just a touch wider. They're pretty much all the same sort of width though. So after that statement being 18 to 22, we get a look at the metal planes. So that's a record number 6. This is a WS-A6, which is a lovely plane. Again, really heavy. Got that brass cap on. These are 18 inches. But also in this class are the Stanley and record number 7, which everybody considers is a jointer plane. But these are 22 inches, so they are a Fore plane. Now, the fact that because we don't do that much hand planing work now, these are generally good enough to shoot the edges of boards as a jointer, doesn't excuse the fact that they are not jointers. The number 8 is a jointer because it's over 24 inches. These are Fore planes. Here's another interesting plane out of my collection. This is the first number 7. No, this is the first record number 7. This is the first number 7 I've ever owned, which was the old Bailey low knob. It's a beautiful plane, this one. Have a brief look at it. Quite old. I can't remember what the exact patent date on this one is. I think it's 1902, I think, on this one. Or 1892. I think 1892 to 1902. So it's an old, this is an old plane. Non-adjustable frog and various other things. So yeah, that's a regular user of mine. So that is ready to go. This one needs repair work. This one, obviously, this number 6 obviously needs repair work. I think the handle was broken, was the reason it got taken to bits. And I've not done any more with it as yet. I can't remember why this one got stripped. There was obviously something wrong with it, but it's not gone back together yet. I do have the bits still. I need to get that back together because that's quite an old plane as well. But this one here, so we were looking at this one. It's neither a 6 nor a 7 in length, so this is a standard 7. And I think what's happened is somebody's cut it down, for whatever reason, whether it was to fit a toolbox or what, but somebody's taken an inch off the back and 2 inches off off the rear of that plane for whatever reason. I don't want to take these off their rag because these planes were greased up heavily to go into store. So I really don't want to take them off that rag and drop them on the bench. These four haven't been used yet since they came out of storage. This one gets used a lot. This one gets used a lot. So Joseph Moxon talks of the jointer having a curved or a cambered iron for trying a board. Now I think trying is an old English word for truing, and it comes up quite a lot, and you often see these wooden planes particularly sold as triplanes, and that's the reason. They're actually Fore planes, and Fore meaning before, so you use this plane before you use anything else. Okay, so if you were converting rough sawn stock like this to finished trued up boards, 4 square boards, the Fore plane would be what you'd start with. So bearing all that in mind, that they should have a cambered iron, we'll have a look at one or two. So that iron there is straight, and that iron there is slightly cambered. This one is straight, and I know this one's straight because I use it. Obviously I use it as a jointer, or have used it as a jointer. I let my students use it as a jointer. This one here, which is a lovely plane, has a Hernshaw Brothers iron. Again, it's fairly straight. I've actually pushed some of these forward so you guys can see. And then we'll pick up one of these that I haven't done yet and we'll have a look. And see, that one is cambered. That one's cambered. Now they don't have a lot of camber a lot of the time. That one's cambered. So these are literally as I bought them. That one's dead straight. And that had been reground straight, so I left it straight for now. Yeah, some of these are as I found them, as I bought them. That one you can't see the iron in at all. Let's see if we can pull that one out. In that case. That one is cambered. And like I say, they don't have much of a camber to them because they don't need it to work well. And yet that one's straight. Although there's all sorts of interesting things going on there because the cap irons push forward as the blade. This one is a Nelson, and I brought it without an ironing, but it's a really nice plane, and at some point I will deal with it and tidy it up because it has a really small tote. It's done a lot of work. You can see that by how the handles are worn smooth. This one had a terrible restoration. A horrible thick lacquer on it. I don't know how straight and true it is, but the body's been thinned down because they've planed the outer edge of the body off. You can see it was dark. So they've planed that off because the chamfers are only tiny on it now. And then they've put this hideous lacquer over it. And again, they've taken a Tormic or something like that to the iron, which is a bad job. And then this is my everyday, this is my trying plane, or my Fore plane. This is the plane that I pick up and I use every time. It's well battered, you know, there's bits of handle missing and all sorts, but it's a glorious thing and all I did was reground it because somebody had a go at grinding it and tried to grind it straight, so I put the camber back into that plane. And then this is a virtually unused Marples. I think it's a Marples. Oh no, this one is a Warden pane. That's right. So this has hardly ever been used. No. That is how it came to me. That's the condition the sole was in. I honed the blade. I don't think it had ever been honed. It had been used, but it had never been honed. You can still see the factory grinding marks in it. and it is bang on full length. But the only thing that gives it away that it had been used is that it's been tapped here and just slightly rolled over. When we were looking at the book by Moxon, the whole purpose of these Fore Planes is to take rough sawn lumber from this state ready to put your jack, your jointer or your smoothing plane onto. Now you can do shorter lengths like this, are perfect to do with the jack. They really are, but it's not how things were done before. Now I've got that set taking a really deep cut. And the reason it's taking a deep cut is because it needs to. Because the body of the plane is longer, it's riding over the surface. But it's not taking a lot of timber off. Sort of difficult to do it with the bench planes on the bench. But that iron is set. I wouldn't want to take it much more than that and use it. But you know, this is not the sort of place this is not the sort of place you want to be taking super thin shavings with, because it doesn't work for the purpose you're trying to get to. You're trying to get to chewed up boards as quick as possible. Okay, so that plane's hogging well now. So I'm going to pick up this one, the hardly used one, for a second. And Moxon's description is that you would use your trying plane to true up the work and get it roughly right. Now that, because that's got a square iron in, it doesn't want to work. And that's the problem. It pulls off too much of a shaving, the full width of the iron, and doesn't give you what you want. It's working too hard. Because it's pulling that full width shaving off full thickness, you can't work it. So then we'll just give this one this one wants a little tweak. Now obviously I'm not this plane has much less of a camber, which again is what Moxon is talking of using in the later stage. He says to set your iron finer, but you will still be using cambered iron. So that's a finer set iron. It's not very fine, but it is a finer set iron. So now I'm getting a lot less ridges. Okay, and obviously I've not checked whether I'm planing in the right way for the grain or not. I am getting some tear out around these knots, but that's going to happen. So we'll try this Stanley. Now this is set with the blade right in. Come on, Olga. So Moxon then Torx have taken a slightly finer set, and again this has a camber on, so whoever owned this plane was using it as a fore plane. The then Torx of then going from here to the jointer or the smoother. See what the stand is like. Now, because this is the Stanley itself is set, is ground with a square iron, it's going to leave me with tram lines, just like a smooth one. But like I say, I tend to, a big jointer is a plane that's quite unwieldy. So when I talk of a big jointer, let's have a look at what I mean. So by a big jointer, I'm talking of a plane like this one. This is my daily jointer. Okay, so a big jointer like that is quite often unwieldy for a student to use because it's big, it's heavy, and you can roll them side to side. So I do tend to get the students using the number 7 as a jointer, which is why this one is set square. But in a surface of a board like this, you are going to get track marks. But these old Stanley low knobs, they really are wonderful planes to use. I do have so this has got, again, this is another low knob with a Clifton ironing. You can tell that by the touch mark on it. I do have the original ruler level co iron for this, so if I was to ever sell it, I would actually return that iron to this plane. It's got its original cap iron and its original lever cap. But I would return that iron to this plane. The only difference is it's virtually worn out. Well, it's very heavily worn, so I didn't want to continue to keep wearing that plane out or that iron out. But they are, you know, this is how you would true a board if you were working traditionally by hand, and they don't want to be wafer thin shavings. You want to take off that work down to flat as fast as physically possible. That's where the efficiency with hand tools comes in. It doesn't come from taking 150 passes really, really quickly, a really fine set. It comes from taking as fewer passes as physically possible to get this board to where you need it to be, which is flat, straight and true. I will, in another video, another time, when we've looked at all the plane types and all the plane groups, I will go through and do another video actually truing a board square and true. So with 4 square corners, with flat faces, without winding them, without bow, without cup. You know, we'll take a piece of, same again, we'll take a piece of red deal and we'll actually work to the exact instructions in Moxon's book. So again, I think this one will, yeah, I think this is okay. This one's quite finely set. I think probably this has been used by a student as a jointer. It certainly wasn't used by me set like that. And as I say, I'm not actually looking to true this board, I'm just cleaning it up at this stage. Just for the purposes of the camera. If I was cleaning it up, I would actually have put I was looking to square it up, true it up, I would put my winding sticks on and I'd be checking it, but I'm not looking to go to that effort just yet. So yeah, these are the Fore Planes. This is the group known as Fore Planes, and their sole purpose is truing work. Okay, and you would true all four faces with your triplane or your Fore Plane, and then you would skim off all four faces. Then you would work back. So I mean, I've worked this corner too low here. That's, you know, I'm just planing for the sake of planing. It's an offcut. It's got a big check down the centre here. So it either needs splitting on the rips or it actually needs this pith planing out anyway before it would be usable. So I can keep fiddling with that. It's just a good practice piece. It's a good piece to show you guys on. But yeah, that is something we need to bear in mind when we're thinking about all these planes, is that now, because of the way we work wood, that has become classed as a jointer, but is actually a Fore Plane. But these planes should, in theory, all have a cambered iron. Now, if you're using your 7 as a jointer, I would say buy a second iron and actually camber a second iron. Just the same as I would say if you were using your 5.5 or your 5 as your jack plane. As a Fore Plane, I would actually buy a second iron and I would fit that in and keep your an iron square for other purposes. But if you're buying one of these wooden Fore Planes, you know, an 18 to 22 inch wooden plane, camber the iron, and don't worry about it. These wooden planes are fairly cheap and you can afford to buy a jointer or buy a jack or buy another Fore Plane even and leave one cambered and one straight. These Fore Planes are the plane or the group of planes that I find that are most battered apart from the jack. These are the second most battered planes that I find. So there's one here, I don't know which one it is now, but there's one of these that's got that one. It's this one. So this one has come to me and the handle is the tote is completely loose. Has been glued in with some hideous glue at some point, some hideous resin glue. Can't see a maker's mark on it, or can't read a maker's mark just as easy as that on that one. But they are generally battered because they've worked bloody hard all their lives. It's quite often to find the back of these totes are damaged like this, and the body depth is often thin. So I've got several here that are quite thin, certainly thinner than, for example, these have done much less work. This is a plane that's done very little work. The tote is almost complete, in really nice nick, you know, but it hasn't been planed because the roundovers are good. This one is a Molesden Sons, so that was produced in Broad Street, Bloomsbury, London. So that was when they were working there. Hernshaw Brothers ironing this one, which is virtually full length as well. There's very little mushroom into the top of the iron, so this has had very little work. But if you compare that to this Nelson one, there's nearly half to 3/4 of an inch or 5/8 of an inch, say, gone off that one. That's only comes about through work. These wooden planes only get worn through work. The other thing to note with this original one, with this other one that I don't think has ever been used, is that you can still see the sawing marks from where the handle was originally cut in the handle itself. They're here. So this plane has done next to no work at all. So yeah, that's it. That is how Fore Planes work. This is the purpose of a Fore Plane. They are literally the before plane. They went before everything else. And that is really all there is to say about them. I know it's only a a shortish video compared to the jack and the smoother, but these planes have one function in life, and that is to clean up boards. When it came around to the metal planes, Bailey pattern, the bedrock pattern planes, they sort of standardised on the shortest sizes in the groups, and hence we get a number 7. However, by the time the Bailey number 7 came about in 1870, I think, 1880, something like 1890 perhaps, the work in a joiner's shop had changed. The Industrial Revolution had led to more machinery, and okay, that would have been shaft-driven, belt-driven machines, but which aren't as, the belt-driven machines weren't quite as nice to use as the machines that came after the turn of the century that had electric motors and that sort of thing fitted. But they were still good labour saving, and it had changed the way joiner shops were working, in that it meant it was viable to plane timber on a machine and not by hand. So work was becoming, the faces would be planed and they could be resawn even more accurately than a good quality sawyer on a pit saw. A pit saw in the right hands is an incredibly accurate tool, as is a frame saw. And if you've ever seen anyone sawing veneers with a frame saw, you'll understand how accurate they can be. But suddenly unskilled men could produce that level of work off a resaw, so a circular resaw as they would have been then, and a planer. So you're taking out of the equation two sort of skilled workers, in that your joiner didn't need to true up work manually. He could do it on the planer thicknesser or on the surface planer, and he also didn't need to have to have his work resawn by a sawyer. It could be done in the workshop. So by the time these planes came about, really the only thing that they would have been in country shops and small workshops, these Fore Planes would still have been being used. In the bigger shops, these planes could have gone as jointers because the work was being produced in a different way. And that is where we come on to the 7s actually being jointers, even though they are 4 plane size planes. And that is where I think the differences have sort of occurred between the metal planes and the wooden planes. You would never see a wooden plane like this listed as a jointer historically, because they aren't. They are 4 planes, and that is why you see so many with cambered irons. Usually I find they've been reground. A lot of these 4 planes that come through my hands have been reground, sometimes badly, and at the wrong angle or what have you, and that's not correct. That you always find the original ones had cambered irons, and that is because of the work they were doing. So that's it for today's video, guys. If you could all like and subscribe, that would be wonderful. I think there's 38% of you viewing my videos that aren't subscribed. So if a few more could actually subscribe, that would be wonderful, because it really does the YouTube algorithm good. And the quicker I can grow the channel, the more it will allow me time to produce videos like this, because I have to do these at my cost. At the moment I have no revenue from YouTube whatsoever, So all of this is being done at my cost, off my own back. The sooner we can hit that monetization goal, the sooner I can sort of dedicate a lot more time to doing things like this. And you know, bear in mind a 40-minute video probably takes, you know, 3 or 4 hours. So it's a considerable time. I want to keep documenting what I'm doing. So if we can just make sure we keep liking and subscribing, that would be wonderful. That is pretty much it. Next week I will do jointers, and then we'll look at truing boards and that sort of thing, and then we'll get into some of the more specialist stuff that I've got. Got some of the coach making planes and that sort of thing. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.